And then Regina and Michelle, you want to take it away, and I'll welcome Avery when she gets in.
Welcome to Homegrown Hillsborough Food Access Working Group August 12th meeting. We first start out by introducing ourselves. My name is Regina Polite. I am one of the co-chairs of this group. And we go around the room normally and introduce ourselves and let us know a little bit about yourself. So let me start to my left.
Hi, I'm Devin Gray. I'm a PhD candidate at the University of South Florida, getting my degree in anthropology, currently medical anthropology. We have an applied focus, and the work I do intersects with issues of food insecurity and also public health concerning pandemic response efforts. So, for instance, COVID-19, as well as looking at how different levels of disparity and insecurity intersect to impact health and wellness. And I work with Dr. David Himmelgreen.
Hi, everyone. I'm David Himmelgreen. I'm a faculty member also in the Department of Anthropology at the University of South Florida, and also the director, and this is along to the Center for Advancement of Food Security in Healthy Communities. As I always say, it really captures the essence of what we do, even though it's a little bit cumbersome name for a center. And we've been around for formally since 2020, and we work on a number of projects. And I'll talk very briefly in our presentation about some of the things we do. And I do have some postcards if anybody's interested in learning more about the center.
Hi, everyone. Oh, should I go next?
Yeah.
My name is Eileen Hernandez. I'm a nurse practitioner, and I'm part of Homegrown Hillsborough as a secretary at the moment, and been in healthcare for over 20 years. So I'm just trying to be a part of what we're trying to build here.
Nice. I'm Savannah Bennett. I work for Homegrown Hillsborough. I am like kind of the steward of the working groups, making sure everybody shows up, has their papers, etc. And yeah, so then I'll send it to Michelle.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michelle Urania. I am a registered dietitian, currently with building my private practice, but also have worked with the Hillsborough County Healthy Living Program, as well as the Department of Health with the WIC program. So I'm happy to be here to ensure we can increase access in our community and in our county.
And Avery, you want to introduce yourself? You're muted.
Hi, everyone. My name is Avery. I work for the Department of Health in Hillsborough County as one of the senior health educators. I oversee what's called the Healthy Communities of Florida Work Plan. It was formerly known as Healthiest Weight Florida. So within that work plan, I oversee school health efforts, worksite wellness. I help with a few different community projects, along with doing outreach in our county. I am working on a few projects, such as the Community Health Assessment, Community Health Improvement Plan, which is a 3 to 5 year process in the county to assess the overall health. Food access and insecurity being one of those issues that we are addressing. So if any of you have any questions about that process or want to get more involved, please feel free to let me know.
So everyone have introduced themselves. So next on our agenda, it would be item 2, which is deliverables and old business. And we have a speaker here by the name of Devin Gray with Catfish Phase 2 report. Go ahead, Devin.
Hi. So yes, we're here as part of an evaluation team that Catfish has been doing for the past 3 years for Homegrown Hillsborough. The first year sort of was the formation and a sort of exploratory work that kind of explored what we were expecting to see in terms of the partners and the people that might be involved in the organization, also the food system as a whole. And then we've been exploring different aspects of that and kind of teasing out that information as we go through the years in this evaluation process. If you don't mind going.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot how to make this bigger. There we go.
You're good.
Alrighty, I want to make sure they can see it. Okay. Oh, and now it's going to do the whole screen anyway. Okay. You want to go to the next one?
If you don't mind.
Yeah,
Thank you. And yes, so David, if you want to take over.
Yeah, I'll just talk briefly. I know you've had a lot of work to do. So want to take up too much of your time. So I'll talk a little bit more about the center. You can see our mission, and we've been around since 2020. A lot of the work we do is with community agencies like Homegrown Hillsborough. We work with Feeding Tampa Bay. We are working with seniors in service now. We work with health centers on program development, mostly programs aimed at reducing, mitigating the effects of food insecurity and improving health. We've done some community garden programs. We had a USDA grant, which just ended in May with the 15th Street Farm in St. Pete. And that was a education, gardening and nutrition education program aimed at middle schoolers. That was a really nice project, and I'm just hoping down the road there'll be more funding for that. When we know what federal funding is like right now, it's very precarious. So, a lot of our work is solution-focused research, program development, evaluation, policy, action plans. I think a big thing for me in particular is the training of students, the next generation of researchers and advocates who are interested in food systems and food insecurity. So we've done quite a bit of that over the last few years, and we're very much community engaged. I think all of our work is with community partners. So I'll stop there.
That's good. So then, if you don't mind, I'm going to the next slide. So as I said, this is a multi-year evaluation. Basically, it's a step-by-step process. We've been sort of scaffolding out based on the different perceived needs and wants of the communities that we are doing the work with. So we partnered with Monica Petrella, who I'm sure you all are very aware of, in the various capacities that she fills. And we were sort of tasked with supplementing the already evaluative work that was going on in terms of surveys that were being distributed. But we focused on the qualitative aspect of doing interviews with potential organizations and partners, participants that may want to interface or were interfacing with HH as part of the overall food system of Hillsborough County. So for year one, that involved us training a small group of interns who were sort of designated as district ambassadors that were given sort of large geographic and zip code swaths of Hillsborough to sort of recruit and do the interviews. And then we compiled them and then did evaluative work and analysis on the interviews themselves. And then this culminated in multiple sort of check-in meetings, both with the ambassadors as well as Monica throughout the process. And then a large sort of presentation at one of the various summits that HH holds, which then followed with a final report, which you'll be able to access online for your perusal if you are so inclined to do so. Year one had a large focus on this, again, the exploratory aspect of seeing what people actually wanted so that we aren't sort of guessing for them. And we found that there was a large theme, and it sort of trickles throughout the evaluative work and the subsequent years on an interest in outreach and education and what that actually looks like. So we wanted to explore deeper into year one. So if you don't mind going to the next slide. So broad strokes, a lot of text on the screen, so you can kind of listen to me if that helps. But most participants were, in a mixed sense, were involved in nonprofit. Primarily those that we interviewed were in a sort of administrative position. So for instance, a program director or a chair or a partner. And because that nonprofit focus is sort of, by extension, led to a lot of the key values or missions and goals involved to be related to education and food and nutrition access, which related to the sort of broad service areas where people realize or were explaining that the work that they do really is with a sort of, as we all know, very diverse population, but with similar needs in a lot of cases, which is food access, income inequality, and a lack of support for the various actors in the food network, with an emphasis on understanding that local growers in Hillsborough County aren't supported in a way that really is conducive to facilitating that food access that we all were trying to strive for as a community. Now, in terms of improvements, there was a large interest and focus on finding more ways to both create and also distribute sort of education materials, but education is very broad, and that can mean a lot of things for a lot of people. And for some, education is not enough. Actually, for most people, education is not really enough. You can't, it's not so much just to say you need to do X, Y, or Z. It's also giving them the tools to do so. So finding the mediums and methods that would facilitate that is something that we sort of wanted to explore in year 2 once we saw that was a pervasive theme. That being said, HH involvement and interest was very high. So there's a little number on the screen, which is 4.38 out of 5. It's a Likert scale of interest, basically, and involvement in HH. And that's a very high number for a Likert scale, more or less. That corresponds to sort of high interest, if you will. And because of that, it's important for these organizations and these systems that sort of try to engage with the partners to keep that involvement an ongoing process so that that attention is maintained and that audience is facilitated in their interest moving forward throughout the different years. The highest amount of sort of interest in terms of why they might want to be involved in HH was support. That support can take on different phrases or methods. So for instance, could just be funding, but a large focus was on the logistical support. So for instance, HH having a list of databases or directories that could easily be pulled from. So for instance, let's say I am a restaurant owner that's trying to grow or trying to use organic foods. Who do I can find a local grower that could facilitate that process? Those connection building aspects is something we'll see throughout this process too. And that interest and sort of knowing who else is out there doing the work. Because right now there's sort of a dearth of that information in terms of who is out there and what kind of work they do and how can we help each other do our own work in the process. Thank you. Which leads to year 2. So this involved us working throughout 2024. And it was really based on the findings of year 1 and that pervasive sort of interest in education and outreach. And what that looks like was something we wanted to explore because, as I said, that's a very sort of diffuse and diverse sort of topic. And for one person, it may not be very conducive to have one form of material or medium of distribution. For someone else, that's exactly what they need. So finding those commonalities and differences is really important so we can better craft something that actually is useful and not just used for people that are trying to participate in such systems. So this primarily focused on us doing surveys and interviews. This time we did not involve the district ambassadors. This was us doing the interviewing ourselves. And then Monica was very helpful with distributing the surveys at the same time. And then afterwards, we would analyze both those materials and develop another report for year 2. That sort of was a culmination of those findings. Again, you can see those findings on the next slide, but also in the reports that's on our website, which I'll show at the end too. So as I said, education throughout basically year 1 and year 2 is education. But again, that's education with a capital E. That's a big umbrella for what things can kind of fall underneath it. In terms of that interest, as you know that there actually is a number behind this, not just saying this. Most organizations, around 72% in the survey and 26% of interviewees sort of had this interest. That 26% is important to note because that's a relatively small number, but that's in the face of a very diffuse amount of interest. So 26 was the highest out of many, many interests, basically. So it looks like a small number, but it's still the most common interest in terms of the interviewees that we saw. In terms of personal priority, which makes sense because usually the people that do interviews are very engaged in these topics for the most part. So around half had a higher moderate interest in terms of their organizational priority and around a 42% or priority in terms of education as a personal interest to themselves in terms of their promotion of food security systems and methods in the county. Now, in terms of the resources that were most desired, there was a strong preference for client-facing materials. So not just something that like you'd use for your own use or your internal organization. This is something that would be useful for your participants, your constituents, your neighbors, whatever demographic that you're primarily serving. So something that is useful for the people you're serving, not so much as something that could aid you in your day-to-day practice, basically. So the topics that we're very interested in sort of exploring by participants were urban gardening, farmer market lists. So where can I go to access farmers markets? What kind of produce could I access as an example? Food aid information. So like what are the various forms of food aid and assistance you can access in the county or both governmental and non-governmental, as well as health promotion materials. So is there any database or list or directory I can use to, for instance, link up with my community so that they have access to this information. And they're not just expected to know, for instance, how to maintain their own health and wellness, as an example. Now, in terms of the preferred formats of that distribution of those education and outreach materials, there was a very large interest in databases. So again, I want to go and basically just have one spot where I can get all this information and not just have to sort of do guesswork or ask around. I want it in one location. Seminars, like often are done by HH, and Feeding Tampa Bay as an example, or another very popular venue where you can kind of see the different actors in play and also get that information face to face. And then resource maps. So for instance, where can I access farmers markets? Where can I go find local produce? Where are there other nonprofits that do similar work as myself, and how can I connect with them? That connection building and that shared vision is something that we're exploring, and we'll explore in year 3, really, based on this understanding that people have an interest with collaboration, but that collaboration needs that sticking glue to kind of make it operational, and operationalizing the different topics we talked about. So for instance, like education and outreach and getting people in the same room that have similar interests and also diverse interests are a good way to kind of build those connections, which is the focus of year 3. So as I said, year 3 is currently where we're currently at this present moment. I'll show a sort of timeline on the next slide, but this is primarily 2025. Likely the reports will probably spill into the early months of 2026, but essentially a similar process of we'll be recruiting, HH will be recruiting interviewees based on the findings from year 1 and year 2. There was a sort of interest and connection building. And one thing that, for instance, Monica Petrella suggested that we use different frameworks, including social capital and social networks, which are very much used in this sort of work, but also expanding in different directions. So for instance, focusing on bridge building and how do we get people in the same room with shared interests and get them to continue those conversations outside of the room in those meetings at the same time too. And through this, we'll be doing interviews really starting this month, and that'll lead into December, which you can see I think on the next slide, I believe. Yes, so we've already developed the research instruments and we've gotten the institutional approval by our university. So basically the project is greenlit to continue on to year 3. Right now, we are expecting pilot testing to occur this month, which will also sort of lead into implementation, which is the formal project of doing the interviews. And that'll extend throughout the project timeline, which is around the end of December, which will include analysis and then their presentation of findings. If possible, likely showing preliminary findings sometime in December, but then the finalized report and indoor presentation, which would follow in January or February. And then there's a link that, of course, you're not going to just type out. So if you want, you can just type in USF catfish into Google, and then the top link should be our university page where you'll see various links that we have. If that's clickable, fantastic. If not, do not worry about it.
Nope.
Okay, cool. So yes, basically you can go on the website and you can find the various projects, including the year 1 and year 2 evaluation report. We need to put year 2 on there, but year 1 currently is there for your perusal. You can see the reports in full, and with that, you can see the sort of background information that kind of contextualize all of this, as well as the information that sort of frames our trajectory with HH moving into the future for this. So that's it. Any questions before we sort of wrap it up as well?
Question.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm just curious, the 4.38 number, I believe, for year 1, how do you come up with that? What are you looking at?
Sure. So that is basically asking a question. So on a Likert scale, you might say, which you've done, everyone's done a million times. So it'd be like on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being very low interest, 5 being very high interest, what is your perception concerning your willingness to join HH? What is your interest in Homegrown Hillsborough? Then you can tabulate those scores. So for instance, if everyone is saying 4 out of 5, that in a Likert scale usually corresponds to high interest, while 5 being very high interest. So then you can say on average, most people said they had a very high interest and involvement in HH. But if you tabulate all the scores and then average them, that's where that 4.38 number comes from. So it's sort of resting between high and very high interest, which is great in terms of an evaluation project because it shows there is that desire of involvement at the same time too. So generally it sort of gravitates towards the curve, which is the middle, which would be like just interested roughly, which is like a 3. So you want a high number in this case, which we're seeing here.
So it's kind of tabulated based off of like interest in being part of the.
Yeah,
network.
exactly, yes. And that also sort of informs the year 2 and year 3 because we have that interest in exploring how we can make that interest translate into effective action or collaboration is sort of what we've been trying to explore too at the same time.
Thank you.
Of course.
I have a question. I don't know if it's gonna relate to what you're doing.
Sure.
But what community did you use to gather your data for the survey? You know, I'm saying community like, was it like was it like East Tampa, the city of Tampa? You know, did you find these people that you're talking about? Where did you find them?
Sure.
And how did you find them?
Of course, yes, good question. So actually, it's important to contextualize. So for this, it was a stratified sample, which means that we take from a sort of subset of a target population. So in this case, it was those that were already either working with or desiring to work with HH, as an example. Okay. Primarily, we're reaching out to organizations and participants that are already involved in HH. So we have a question that's like, how did you hear about Homegrown Hillsborough, or how long have you been involved in HH? And for many people, that's since inception, especially with this group that's very interested in this sort of work. So a lot of it is really just talking with organizations that are in this food system network that is sort of being developed by
Homegrown.
Yes, by Homegrown Hillsborough, yes. Yeah. So it's not so much we're reaching out to like the local community. It's more that we're reaching out to the organizations that are tabulated and grabbed from HH, for instance, by Monica Urchella, so that we then can see what the organizational interest is in these topics and how we can help those organizations facilitate the work that they do. I don't know if, for instance, it'd be beneficial, Monica, to sort of talk about the various organizations or partners that you're kind of looking to, but I think it was pretty broad, correct?
Yeah, I'll come on camera, so I'm not the voice from the distance. Yeah. Since we started Homegrown Hillsborough, we engaged working with Dr. Himmelgreen and Devin from the very beginning. Through that process, as Homegrown Hillsborough developed, we had these different opportunities to participate in this research. So we mostly did recruitment through posting on the platform, sharing it on the newsletter. And then for phase 2, we actually had the program ambassadors get on the phones and call people to participate, which is why we had pretty high numbers. I'm pretty proud of the recruitment that we had. So it was targeting mostly Homegrown Hillsborough members. And then, I mean, for phase 2, we had probably 5 months of recruitment. And so at meetings, we'd talk about it. We had summits that we would mention it. And then kind of in the last month or so, we actually like got on the phones and invited people to participate in the research. We did have an incentive as well. We had like a raffle for a gift card. Which it's just kind of part of the responsibility of Homegrown Hillsborough is to make sure that everyone's on all of our communication platforms, but we were sharing it through the newsletter, through the platform, and then face-to-face as well as in-person events. Yeah. So we don't like disclose who was interviewed, but if we did, you'd recognize a lot of names because it's our partners. It's people that come to events and participate in meetings and stuff. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, and that subset's basically in terms of the scope of these projects is sort of shrinking with every subsequent year because we're fine tuning basically who we're speaking with at the same time to get that sort of very personalized perspective, which is why this year we're primarily just focusing on interviews, which is why we're starting to do recruitment and pilot testing in August with the same group of individuals, that the large pool that we're grabbing from that Monica's been working on. Yeah. Well, that's it in terms of what we had to talk about today, unless you have any more questions. But yeah, hope that was helpful.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Devin.
Yeah.
I did have a question.
Sure.
Thank you.
I was just curious, what would be next steps? You mentioned in August there would be is that a phase 3 or is that a continuation of phase 2?
Sure. We kind of conceptualize it as phase 3, which is a continuation based on the subsequent years. And currently, as I said, the focus is presently on sort of that bridge building. So Monica is expressed a desire, for instance, to sort of explore different frameworks for bridge building. So the interviews, the subjects of those is in that light of finding what is the desire for connections and how can we facilitate those connections at the same time too.
But Michelle, you'll definitely see an opportunity to participate, especially as a co-chair for probably that pilot testing. We might be asking you to get involved.
Yes, please participate. We're the more numbers we have, the better we can say this reflects reality. So you're all in this room and also virtually, most likely perfect for the position to be interviewed. So please reach out to us.
Thank you. I will do.
Awesome. Any other questions for our guests?
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
And I'll probably see you later this weekend. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then on the 20.
Yeah. When you guys are great. Yeah. Okay, great. I look forward to it. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for trying this.
Thank you. I'm gonna bring it around. Yeah.
That's our agenda, right? Okay, with that said, we're still on item 2. And then we're on B, discussion with new developments, assignment, reading, other learning outcomes, important news since our last meeting. Anyone have any comments? Anybody read anything? What?
I did want to share just about the last week's meeting. I thought that was super helpful about just learning a little bit more about leadership styles and kind of reflecting a little bit more about my style. So I thought that was super helpful.
Glad to hear it. Glad it was helpful and useful.
I think, this is my opinion, I just think there's so much on the homegrown page, so it's like I just like get overwhelmed sometimes. I read this already.
Avery has her hand up as
Okay,
well.
Avery.
What you got, Avery?
I just wanted to second what Michelle said. I went in after the networking social. I read through both of the articles and they were really helpful. And I'm gonna reread them. And I want to share them with some of my coworkers. So thank you so much for providing those. They were really helpful and definitely made me think about some new ways of leadership that I hadn't been thinking of before.
Okay, anyone else have any comments, suggestions? Okay, well, next on the agenda will be review healthy neighborhood store guide. I'll go first because I read mine, all pages of it, and it's highlighted and it is very engaging. Very engaging. And I just think that this is some helpful information to know what we're getting ourselves into with these corner store, concepts, because they're not enough in Hillsborough County. Matter of fact, we need to do a lot of work. So I'm like, wow. I looked at the different cities and everything, and it's like, we're so behind the 8 ball. So it's like, I'm just ready, and I'm thankful to be working with Homegrown to be part of that initial, to try to get it off the ground. So that's my take on it.
Any highlights or things you think we should really be focusing on? Steps?
Well, just the corner stores, like the convenience stores, and especially in the desert communities, and how we're going to have to do better with engaging them to become healthy stores. So that's one of my probably goals and take away out of it. And another step for us to try to resolve with the Sulphur Spring store. Yeah.
Okay.
You have a lot of highlights. What are
I know.
what are some
It's
things?
all important.
No, this is the DC area and some of the things they've done, and how they, like I said, the different cities, and I was very impressed. And I'm just saying, Hillsborough County, Tampa, Florida, we're just behind the 8 ball. That's what I have.
But like, you can tell me what's something you have
Okay,
underlined.
okay, like for instance, I have here like DC Healthy Corner store program. The owners build relationships with the community members in a number of ways. Corner store owner donated food to the community events and hired neighborhood residents. And see, that's another thing. They hired the residents from the community, which makes it so conducive for the people to want to come out and participate. So that's what I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And that does go back to our goal of identifying a champion, right?
Right, exactly.
And so I think that champion ideally will come from the community.
Right, exactly.
Instead of, because we can identify a champion, but that champion might not live in that community, in that neighborhood, which maybe is better than nothing. But I think the goal would be to find somebody there that can kind of, bring their community together.
And like, they're showing here that there's nothing that we have to reinvent because they've done it already. The work has been done. There's resources, that we can, information that we can go to. And so there's nothing that we can't do or reduplicate.
That's very important. I think when we first started with this project, you guys were all kind of like, what do we do? And it's like, well, it's already been done. We can look and see what else was done. And that's the next item here, is that draft that has already been done by
I was part of it. Yeah. But that was a previous Homegrown Hillsborough initiative. And so I don't know when you speak on it. I don't know if people looked at it. So last year, the program ambassadors each had a capstone project. And so in that capstone project, they had to do a community facing event that highlighted their sector. And so like Savannah was consumption. So she worked with a local like refugee group to talk about like culinary traditions and meals and things like that, and did kind of a workshop with them. But so for the distribution program ambassador, we did a healthy neighborhood store. I guess something different. No, sorry. It's anyways.
In the folder.
Yeah.
It's like, this is kind of a plan that's already written out.
Well, and so this was kind of the essence of it, is that there was a healthy neighborhood store working group that kind of died out, but now that we have the food access working group and that you've adopted your goals, is revived in a way. And there actually is a grant called the Healthy Food Financing Initiative, which helps pay for infrastructure as it's related to neighborhood store or grocery stores. And so me and Dahlia, and actually the city of Tampa, and Kitty was part of it too, actually wrote out a proposal, which is what this is. Yeah. So this is something that you guys could totally pick up and dust off, and maybe update some of the partners, add new partners, start looking at what work can be done, within the working group, what work would need more funding, how do those mini grants align, things like that.
I have a question. So I didn't read the whole thing. I just glanced at it. But just out of curiosity, because I know they mentioned databases would be extremely important. Is there anything involved in what we're doing that is going to create a database for these businesses in the future?
So, I don't know if you guys heard the question, but the question was, is there a database as part of this project? The answer is no. And the reasoning for me is because Homegrown Hillsborough, our output, what we contribute, is like programming and projects and kind of leadership development. But the Center for Advancement in Food Security, as a research and academic element, they are kind of more involved in like databases. So I think that could be a partnership, whereas Homegrown Hillsborough is helping organize the logistics of actually getting someone out there at the table and doing tastings and putting the banners up, and they could, and the Center for Advancement of Food Security could help create a corresponding database. I will say this, as far as data, there's so much out there already. There's a lot of databases already out there. And in fact, it's overwhelming. So like, I'm not sure specifically what kind of data you'd be interested in seeing, but it might already exist.
Well, it sounded like, I mean, I don't know, I'm not like too involved, like I'm not familiar with their kind of work, but it sounds like what they're speaking of is some kind of database where business owners, whatever, anything related to food access, that they can kind of like click and then like just be able to find exactly what it is they need. But you're saying that maybe that we're trying to like logistically do it on our own kind of thing.
Yes and no. It would, like, when you say find out exactly what they need, like we'd have to just be more specific in that. So data is a really complex and tricky and expensive thing. So like to get real-time data is almost impossible. And so that would be a much bigger lift than I would ever be capable of doing. And like I said, it's not really the essence of what Homegrown Hillsborough is about, but I think that a university institution could, but we'd need to find out what data they're looking for. So for example, there is data on low-income, low-access neighborhoods already, the Food Atlas map. There is data on consumer spending. There is data on development. There is data on affluence and economic disparities. So it would be a matter of which select data you are interested in, and then seeing if there is already a resource for that. Yeah. But no, this was all about, what it was actually about is building community capacity in order to kind of to inspire and to empower a leader from within that community to rise to the top in order to ultimately be that champion, alongside doing more of our kind of traditional leadership development and doing some more kind of like infrastructure development as well.
And networking.
And what?
And networking.
And yeah, networking. Yeah. But basically, Homegrown Hillsborough can kind of go in and instigate and inspire and do kind of like the first few actions to kind of get things bubbling. And then similar to like what we're doing with your leadership development, you'd be doing that within that community. So that way there's leaders everywhere. And once again, you know, like I could be a neighborhood champion or a neighborhood store champion, but that wouldn't be the best fit, you know, because I don't live in that neighborhood. So me coming in and trying to get people to buy into what I'm trying to sell, whether that's, you know, healthy access or not, would be a harder sell than somebody who is there that knows those people. Yeah. So that's what this was about, was basically, it was a proposal to, if you want to scroll down, maybe I'll remember some of it a little more. So yeah, Homegrown Hillsborough, Coalition, Well-Fed, Department of Health. I forgot that Avery was part of that as well. Oh, sorry, we'll share the screen. Yeah. No, you're good.
Here's a little camera, so like when we're mostly talking, I want it to.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so now you can't see me, but you can hear me. Okay. And then so keep scrolling.
There's stuff left out.
Yeah. So but yeah, so and this was a draft, and you can see there's still things to be left to be discovered, but you can see, so let's pause right here. So this might be a little more, but so coordinate with and support local Homegrown Hillsborough partner organizations to provide food system education for residents. The food system education includes the sectors, coordinating activities, emphasizing community development goals. So that's a kind of a lot of what we do now, right? Like you guys took that pre and post test, that's food system education. How do we get the whole city to be able to list all of the sectors and assets in video? That, you know, it takes a lot of pre and post tests. Connect with neighborhood stores, with community gardens within 1.5 miles. You know, that's just that's a conversation. You have to go and talk to somebody. You have to go and pitch that. So scroll down a little more. So hiring a neighborhood store coordinator. We do have a GIS map for Homegrown Hillsborough that kind of combines some of those data sets. I'm gonna be honest, it's brutal to look at. It's not easy. It's not easy to use. It's hard to load. It's pretty brutal. And so that's maybe why I'm a little jaded about data, is because I tried. Like I tried and it's hard. Yeah, so anyway, so this is, a draft of things that could, and I'm sure some of these responsibilities probably we could, now that we have more people involved, we could probably sub out some for some others or add more people into it, but that's that. Michelle, did you get a chance to look at any of this stuff, the toolkit or the draft?
Yes, I didn't read it entirely, but I did glance at it as well. I noticed that New York was on one of the Healthy Program Initiative, and a lot of the resources there are resources that I've used, like the My Plate 10 Tips, the Healthy Corner Store Network, the SnapEd Resource Library, and then the What's Cooking. These are things that I've already used before, like in my previous work experience. And I've also seen a few Healthy Corner stores in New York City that offer like they had like signage, like this is a Healthy Corner Store initiative, and they would have like things about I don't know if they had like costs of like certain fruits and vegetables, but I know that they had a lot of signage, and it made like the store more appealing for the neighborhood to be able to increase like sales on fruits and vegetables. So I found that super helpful just from my own experience. But with the version 1 of the project overview, I haven't dived deep into that yet, so I'm gonna look a little bit more into that today.
This will be a platform post, but I'll take the first platform post that you may have seen. We have a Homegrown Hillsborough conference coming up in December, and we want you guys to be there. So please mark your calendar. We have it scheduled for December 2nd through 4th. The 2nd is going to be kind of like a happy hour type of check-in, so more like an evening event. And then the Wednesday, the 3rd, is going to be the big day where we would really like you, especially to be there. Where we might call on you beforehand, you'll know beforehand, not at the day of, to, maybe lead a panel or do something like that. So we're gonna have a full day of workshops, panels, I don't know if lecture is the right word, but yeah, all of those things. We'll have a keynote speaker. There'll be lunch, of course, and yeah, that's so I just want to make sure it's on your calendar now.
It is.
Okay, great.
Sure. When I glanced at it, I said it's so much, so overwhelming.
Yes.
Where's this conference gonna take place?
We have not secured a location yet.
Oh, okay.
We're still, we're trying desperately.
We should know in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I would even say
Is this the first conference?
first annual, yeah.
It is on your first?
Because we had
okay.
we had summits. So we had like monthly field trips, basically. But this is an actual conference where network-wide, everyone's getting together. There's going to be lots of different topics. There's going to be probably 3 different like tracks. There's going to be a keynote speaker, and then so this is more of a kind of a conference style versus what we've done in the past is more like summit field trips.
Okay.
Yeah.
And actually, the 3rd day, which I didn't get to, we'll have a breakfast and then tours if people are interested. So we'll do some local tours and we'll have a nice breakfast out at Meacham, and then we'll head out. So
Any keynote speakers that you can announce now?
No, we don't know them. Because we don't know them. Not because it's secret.
yeah.
Because they don't lie to anybody. Yeah.
No one confirmed.
Yeah. Could be you.
Will there be a call? Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to raise my hand. Will there be a call for papers for the keynote speakers? Okay.
Oh, well, but not necessarily for the keynote, but for the different
Workshops,
lectures.
Sorry,
Yeah, but we're
that's what I
definitely.
meant. Sorry.
Yep. Yeah. But you can be keynote. But yeah, we're gonna once we kind of get the location firmed up and the few other bigger logistics, we're gonna make that call. But we'll do kind of a little sneak peek. So we the tracks right now that and nothing, no, don't hold me to this 100%. But we want to do like a track on leadership development, a track on the working groups and kind of what you guys have been up to, and then a general food system track. And so we're gonna have panels, we're gonna have lectures, and then we're gonna have a workshop. And so we're gonna send out more information on that. But you can kind of start brainstorming where you might fit into something like that. So yeah, that should be coming shortly.
And it is posted as an event on the platform. So don't forget to RSVP. And then this is your working group page. Let me share it if you want to kind of look through some of the things you guys have posted recently. I don't know if Eileen, if you want to talk about your,
Yeah.
did you know?
So, I posted, actually Monica provided me with this wonderful article on diets and how 86% of US residents, not just in Hillsborough County, but in the United States, which is such a high number, I feel like. If it was closer to 50, I would say, okay, we're doing okay, but 86, that's failing, I feel. So they said that we have poor quality diets, and I want to be part of the 20s. I want to be part of the 18, whatever, 14%. And it's hard because, sometimes vegetables, they cost a little more. So there's so many aspects to this, but I understand that 86 is a crucial, it kind of gives way to that, the fact that what we're doing here is not just a local issue. It's probably global. Who knows? So it's a very interesting read. Nourish Science, it says there it's a non-governmental organization that focuses on research and diets, which I thought that was pretty interesting because Nick Ewing, I believe, he was asking me about that recently, and I didn't really know where to direct him because I work in research, but it's more pharmaceutical. I don't know too much about diets so much. So I thought that was interesting that there is a actual agency that covers this kind of issue, Nourish Science, the NGO. And yeah, it was a very interesting read. It shows that what we're doing here is we have a purpose. 86%. It's high.
Yeah. It's really interesting. Low quality diet. I kind of wonder, or low diet quality. Like what? I guess I should read the article. They define that as.
I don't know that it said that, like the consistency of what that means, but I can only imagine fast food is everywhere, Probably people are like, oh, I'm gonna get some lunch real quick at KFC or something. No offense to KFC, but what are the nutrients that fast food restaurants are offering? It's poor.
Well, I think a lot of our work is always really important to ask ourselves or to kind of remember that we are hoping to change hearts and minds and behaviors of community residents. Do we ourselves always do those things?
We try.
I mean, and I won't speak for everybody, but you say you try and I try, but I was just at Meet Your Urban Farm, and they have they have four retail days available. And I very rarely go and get my produce from them, even though I love local farmers. I want to support local farmers. And that's just because of scheduling and blah, 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 blah. But, I could walk the walk a little more. With diet, we're supposed to be eating 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. There's for sure days that I am not eating 5 servings of fruits and vegetables. And when you actually kind of start thinking about it, it sometimes it's harder to do than you'd like. For whatever reason, you're on the go, or it's expensive or cheap, or your family doesn't like it. So I think it's important to kind of say like, okay, if we're gonna ask others to do 5 servings of fruits and vegetables, then we should make sure that we are also kind of trying to do that. And I think one of the most important things is to have empathy for when it doesn't happen, right? Like KFC, you're allowed to eat KFC. Right. It's just hopefully that's not the staple of your diet, right? Yeah. Yeah, KFC with a side of salad, things like that. So, but yeah, 86% is a lot. There's obviously a lot of work to do. And there's once again, we all need to help because there should be no turf wars in this because 86 is a huge number. And so let's say we solve, diet related diseases in Hillsborough County, we solve food insecurity in Hillsborough County. Well, guess what? It seems like there's a lot more people out there that can probably benefit from it. So.
And with that said, I text Eileen and I asked her, could I use her article for my newsletter for August? Okay, for Healthy 22nd Street newsletter. And that's the first thing up there is this right here. And I did put up on there, did you know this back or whatever? Yeah. I really confident. So I was like, thank you, girl.
Yeah. I like the series.
Because my neighborhood needs to know these facts, and I'm getting these resources, like you said, you got it from Monica, which, this place is, with the resources is a blessing to a desert community because some people just don't know, and these statistics are just really like, I read, I was like, ooh, let me text this girl and see if I can use this. Yeah. She's like, yeah, anytime, go ahead. Yeah.
Actually, I took a course on sustainable diets. They actually said the recommended serving size of vegetables is 8.
Oh,
I still fail to get to that. I sometimes even some days have like 4. I feel bad. I'm like, I haven't even gotten like more than 50%. I'm doing poor, but little by little I'm noticing that it's a lifestyle. It is.
I was having dinner with a family friend last night and their daughter's 6 and she was getting in trouble because she just kept eating fruit instead of her actual real dinner. And I was like, kind of what a blessing to have. That'd be a problem. But they were like, you need more substance than just fruit. Like you're going to be hungry, if you don't get, some actual real protein in you. But she was just nomming on watermelon, apples, melons, like everything. And that's really important, especially for kids. If they like it when they're young, they'll like it when they're older.
Okay. Next on the agenda would be item 3. Michelle, you want to take that over? You good?
Sure. Let me pull it up one moment. Okay. Item number 3 under new business.
Yes.
Oh, so under new business, I see item A and B. Is that what you're referring to? Okay. So scoring the mini grant applications, it says take an hour and asking non-voting members to leave. So we'll review the rubric and score 3 applications.
Yep. So I will pull up the rubric. Just so you know, Mel, we're gonna like stop recording. Yeah. Thanks so much. This will be very boring for you.
Bye, Mel.
So we'll see. I wanted to drag this over. So we'll kind of look at the rubric before we start here. And Avery, I emailed you how to grade them. Like I sent the documents and the form to your Gmail. So just make sure you got that. But just I wanted to kind of like go through the rubric and kind of talk about a little bit. So when you're looking at these, your options are 1, 2, and 3. You want to look at make sure that like when you're grading it, you're seeing where that number is in the application. So if you're reading it and say that it provides a complete picture of the proposed idea, you should be able to tell me how they're doing that project or like what the project is. And if you're still not really sure about it, then it would be a 2. If there's some holes in understanding or you're wondering, well, how are they going to do this? That would be a 2. And if there's no description or like an unclear description, that's a 1. And that's the same for all of these items, like how it relates to the network, how it relates to your priorities and goals. So if there's like a clear connection, then, that's going to be a 3 where it goes right to your goals and your priorities. And if it only has your priorities, but maybe not the goals, then it's more of a loose connection. And then if it doesn't provide any information about your working group, thankfully, our co-chairs, we put it down to our top 3. So you probably won't have something that's totally unrelated. And then as far as the budget, like make sure they have an actual budget narrative in it. sometimes some of the things, I don't remember exactly which ones. I don't want to like grade these for you. So I'm like, I don't want to speak out of this example. This one's not in here. But like if they just have one number and don't tell you what the budget, what those things are going towards, then that would be a lower score than a 3. And then don't worry about the partner points. We'll do that as well. So we'll have you grade the 3 that you have. And I'm going to stop recording, or maybe I'll stop it.